The most widely published book in human history reveals that we are created in the image of God. Throughout our human journey, each encounter is an opportunity to see the shared humanity in ourselves and others. Regardless of one's views on religion, each experience and each story weaves us together towards a common path. A path of transformation, a process of growth and understanding, a recognition that, at our core, we share a common destiny. What does the search for truth really mean in our lives? How can we find a sense of unity in a world so diverse and divided? As we reflect on these questions, we start to uncover a fundamental connection that binds us all beyond our differences. Welcome to Created in the Image of God, Building Vibrant Communities, with our host, Wade Franson. Tonight's episode is a natural cure for cancer.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Created in the Image of God. I could not be more excited to launch into tonight's show. We have a very esteemed guest, a distinguished, successful worker in the field of health and wellness, Sylvie Beljanski, the founder of the Beljanski Foundation, which was founded in honor of her father's work and to carry on the legacy. Sylvie launched this foundation here in the United States, although her family is originally from France. We'll get to know a lot more about her right now. Welcome to the studio, Sylvie.
Hello, thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. I've been really looking forward to this show, especially given some of the history and background that I've shared with you. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart that we don't really give enough attention to on this show. We focus a lot on the role of religion in society and, those kinds of topics. But at the core, going way back to the book of Genesis, it's revealed that we were put on earth. Adam was put on earth to dress and keep the garden. That was the primary responsibility. And throughout the Bible, we have messages around, I wish above all things that you would prosper and be in good health. And I come to provide life and to provide life more abundantly, said Jesus. So we have these inputs about this physical world. And even though ultimately in the religious traditions, there's a spiritual message and a transcendent future salvation and whatever comes after this life that is the focus. But we're supposed to use this life to learn how and to prepare for that eventual future. So let's just focus now on that. We're going to go, as we always do, deep into your background. And in your case, the work that you're doing today very much has to do with how you grew up. So let's start there. Tell us a little bit about the creation story of Sylvie Beljanski. How did that start? How did it come about that you were placed here on Earth?
Well, I would like to say that I did not see coming, absolutely not coming what happened, but what happened for the best. And looking back, I could not be happier about the journey that was given to me, and everything that was given to me makes sense. I'm now in my 60s, and I had an amazing life, and I am extremely grateful for every piece of it.
The good, the bad, the training, the ups and downs, all with a purpose.
Yeah, exactly. I happened to be born in New York. That was not planned at all. My father was a scientist at the Pasteur Institute in Paris, France, and at the time there was a fellowship between the Pasteur Institute and NYU, New York University. And my father applied for the fellowship, and there was no email at the time. So everything took very long. It took 2 years for him to get the approval. And by the time he had married my mom, and they were expecting me. So I was born in New York, and I got this American citizenship that at first was like something that just happened to be, but was not going to do anything with that. At the end of the fellowship, my parents went back to France. I was raised and educated in France. I never thought I would come back to the States and make my life here.
So you're saying that that's not actually a New York accent that I'm hearing?
No, I came actually pretty late in my life to the States. I love it, and I decided to stay here. Very lucky, actually, very, very lucky to have this American citizenship that was given to me. I also was raised in this scientific family. My father, again, was a PhD in molecular biology. I have 5 generations of scientists behind me, and I thought it was enough. Time to end the curse here, and I would never get involved into science. Actually, I grew up seeing a lot of people coming at home who were sick. My father discovered those products that were helping a lot of people, and I was, as a little brat, I did not want to get involved with those sick people. It's just kind of, no, not for me. I wanted a life of joy, of fun, of course, like when I was a teenager. And I had very little sympathy for those people. I thought I would never get involved, never do anything.
Never say never, right?
Exactly. But even though I did not want to get involved, I highly respected the work of my father. I knew it was working. I knew my parents were helping a lot of people. And
he was working with some very famous scientists too. Is that correct?
Yes, when he was in New York, he worked with Nobel Prize Severo Ochoa at NYU. And then at the Pasteur Institute, of course, he was under another Nobel Prize, Jacques Monod. Yes. And he got in a great opposition with Jacques Monod. I mean, it was really 2 men with two concepts of science that really opposed each other. And Jacques Monod, having received the Nobel Prize, was not keen in seeing somebody in his own department challenging his discoveries. And Jacques Monod tried to crush my father's work. And my father stood up for what he believed was true. And that escalated into a lot of animosity. And when my father was proven right, and then eventually helped François Mitterrand, the former French president of France, when Mitterrand had advanced prostate cancer and was deemed unable to finish his second term. But Mitterrand started to turn to my father and get the products that helped him to finish his second term. That was too much. And 9 months after Mitterrand finally passed away, there was a SWAT team. The French government sent the army with machine guns, helicopters, dogs, everything, like going to war to arrest my father and destroy his laboratory.
And was this in the early 1980s?
That was exactly October 9, 1996.
Oh wow! So it was even later than that, yeah. Because I was in Europe beginning in 1984, and I'm trying to remember, and of course I was so Mitterrand was in power then and it was Helmut Kohl over in Germany, and it was that era. Okay, got it.
Yeah. So I knew that my father had done nothing wrong. I knew that in my heart. And I was a lawyer in 1996. I decided to go to law school. I was not going to get involved into research science, but I went to law school. And my first thing was to take care of my father's legal defense. And the more I was looking at the legal defense, the more I understood that this was not about a crime, arresting a man who had done something wrong. It was about suppressing evidence of research, of knowledge. That's what it was about, to suppress knowledge. And then I said, this is not going to happen. I'm going to do something about it. And
Yeah, so I just had to quickly Google to get my bearings here because I was confused myself. So Mitterrand was president from 81 to 95. That's why I was thinking early 80s, because when I went to Europe, he was the president, but he was president for a long time.
yeah, 2 terms, and terms were 7 years at the time.
Yeah.
So that's 14 years of reign, because he was really ruling the country like a king. And the doctor had, diagnosed that he had the cancer has spread everywhere, that he was not going to be able to make it. So they should prepare the country for early elections, give morphine to Mitterrand, and that was it. And then Mitterrand had a mistress. It's a French story. So the mistress knew about a good doctor who had good results by using my father's product, and that's how Mitterrand started to take the products. And against all odds, it started to get better and better. But that was so public because that was a president. So There were very powerful people involved in the link between pharma, government, industry, big money, who did not like at all that some natural compounds could do better than the official medication, and that they would not allow that to happen.
Well, I think that's a great point to go to our first commercial break, which is actually a video about the book that you wrote. And when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about that transition from you being that girl who grew up in your father's shadow and not wanting to be around those sick people to actually getting involved and engaged and carrying on the legacy of your father. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of Sylvie Beljanski and a natural cure for cancer.
Discover the incredible journey in winning the war on cancer, the epic journey towards a natural cure. Written by Sylvie Beljanski, this book is a testament of resilience, hope, and a fresh take on cancer treatment. Michelle Kagan, former Health Sciences Institute editor, says winning the war on cancer offers an eye-opening glimpse into natural cancer cures and the many lives they've saved and changed. Since being published, Winning the War on Cancer, the epic journey towards a natural cure has garnered various awards, including being the #1 bestseller on Amazon in the holistic health category, #2 bestseller in the health and oncology category, plus being the winner of the onlinebookclub.org's Book of the Year. Get the book, support the foundation, save lives. Available at beljanski.org/book in ebook, audiobook, and paperback formats. Use code.
So, Sylvie, when did you write that book and when was it published?
2018 here in the States. Yes, Morgan James is a publisher.
Wonderful. And your foundation is also involved in a lot of research. We were talking right before the show began. So share an overview about the work of the foundation. What inspired you to actually start it? Obviously, some of the events you've already shared, but just go into a little bit of detail and background, and then we'll get into what you're doing with it.
Yes. So at the beginning, I was really, as a lawyer, I decided to fight the French government in court. We won an unanimous decision at the European Court of Human Rights because the French government would not even explain what they had done and why. It was secret defense. But I quickly realized that winning in court was meaningless, actually, for the scientific legacy. What my father was doing was helping people, and winning in court was not going to do anything for people. So the only thing I should do was to continue to make the products available, continue to help people with the products, and continue the research and get American scientific evidence that those products are doing what my father said they were doing. Not just evidence by testimonials, because that's not looked upon as scientific, but really peer-reviewed papers, peer-reviewed publications. And that I could only get that through creating a non-for-profit organization here in the States and try to fund those research with some events, and then trying to create partnerships with scientific institutions. So over the years, we have been able to work with Kansas University Medical Center on ovarian and pancreatic cancer, with Columbia University on prostate cancer, with Cancer Treatment Centers of America, little fragments of RNA, which are specific of the bone marrow, help the bone marrow create white blood cells and platelets during chemotherapy. And we continue now with breast cancer stem cells research, because every time we have had extremely good results confirming that those little plant extracts, all natural, without any toxicity, able to recognize cancer cells, destroy cancer cells wherever they are located. Men, women, doesn't matter. It goes wherever it recognizes, makes a difference between a healthy cell, a cancerous cell, goes to the cancerous cells, induce apoptosis of these cancerous cells, prevents the duplication, and doesn't harm healthy cells. So we have been confirming that on different kind of cancer, also different stages of cancer, from inflammation, for example, of prostate, to full-blown cancer, to advanced cancer which doesn't respond to hormonal treatment anymore. And now the new research is on cancer stem cells. Cancer stem cells is something very few doctors speak about, because conventional therapies like chemotherapy or radiotherapy do not destroy those cancer stem cells. Cancer stem cells are those embryonic cells within the tumor which are able to resist conventional treatment and eventually will create a new tumor, the relapse of cancer. So it's very important to be able to address them. And it turns out that the little plant extracts that my father discovered do so. And I get everything published in peer-reviewed papers. Everything is available on the website of the foundation, beljanski.org. And it's for everybody there to see and to share.
Wonderful. So let's go back to a moment. I'm intrigued and interested when you mentioned you won the court case. The government or those who had shut your father's work down really could not give any reasons for having done so. They really had no basis for what they had done. They just basically had the power to do so. So they exercised their power, their authority, and they came in and shut it down. But you won the battle in court. So just spend a minute on that event, or how long did that go? And
it took 4 years. They used all the shenanigans, legal shenanigans they could, to delay, to deny, to refuse, to refuse everything we were asking, every analysis we were asking. They just said no to everything. And finally took the case to the European Court of Human Rights, because you cannot let the defendant rot and die without ever giving him his day in court. But that's exactly what they did. So it was not a difficult case to win, because they were absent.
There was no case.
No, exactly. They did not respond. They did not try to justify their attitude.
Wow.
They had destroyed my father. They thought that his research was destroyed forever. They never thought that a little lawyer would carry on the legacy. They couldn't, just did not. That was beyond their poor little imagination. And they thought for them the case was over, case closed.
Do you see? Well, I'm going to come back to this question. Let me first let's spend a minute on what I'm calling the medical industrial complex. I'm sure it's not my term. Others have probably used that term. We've had some apologists for COVID and the approach that was taken with COVID on the show to have this discussion. And I've I've said that, well, medical science is biased. And then I talked to a PhD economist who said you shouldn't use that term. You should explain that there are incentive structures in place. Incentive structures, which can be summed up with the following soundbite. They told me to follow the science. I followed the money, and that's where I found the science. Right? Excuse me. Just got to clear my throat here. I can't.
Yes, they tend to pretend that science is a consensus and the science goes there or the science doesn't go there. In fact, when you look a little bit deeper, you find science studies which are going in every direction. And you also have good science and bad science. And you have a lot of science which is also financed by big companies to they design the study in a way where the outcome is already pre-baked. They will know what they are going to get out depending on the ingredients they are putting in it. And for example, if it's very easy there was a few years ago a big study on vitamin E. And doctors knew that vitamin E could help men, for example, with prostate cancer, but that did not sit well with pharmaceutical companies. So they took men who were absolutely dying already, and they give them some vitamin E, but of course, a little bit of synthetic vitamin E is not going to prevent you to die if you are already dying. So conclusion, doesn't work.
Right. So what we normally wait sort of towards the end, but I'll throw this audience comment in here from Brand Dated 25. The cure for cancer has been around for so long. The problem is there's no money in it, only the treatments. Now, I think there are people who just don't realize the degree to which money ends up corrupting science, right? So there's a new movie out called Common Ground. We were talking about it. I recommend people watch it because it shows really clearly how the big chemical companies have taken over the educational system in America for agriculture, such that everybody that goes to study agriculture is indoctrinated in an agriculture based on chemicals, which actually destroys the soil over time. And the farmers have to continue using synthetic pesticides, chemical fertilizers to make this dead dust produce something that can be called food. But the whole system is completely corrupted, physically, morally, and also the research and science behind it, by the fact that there's an incentive structure in place to continue to push big agriculture. And it's the same in many areas of our modern world, where existing capital structures and power structures are incentivized, and it becomes like a Frankenstein monster or a dinosaur that has to continue to consume and grow to survive. And everything feeds that system, and everyone feeds off that system, and no one can fight it because everybody's getting their livelihood from it. And in the medical industrial complex, research and development has a profit motive. You have to produce products that have the highest profitability over a lifetime, which means if you can get somebody to buy a product and use that product every day of their life, that is so much more lucrative than finding a cure. And the research and development goes towards those products. You know much more about this. I'll let you go from there.
The health industry is an industry. And eventually they are in the business of health, but
they're not. They're in the business of sick care, right?
It has to be it's a business. So
Right.
they have to keep you a client who is going to come back again and again and again, and a client who is going to buy always, because you are never you are it's your the service is designed so you never get well, and you will always be dependent of those drugs because they want a good client. It's an industry.
And yet there are religious teachings, getting back to the topic of religion, that teach us that food is actually our medicine. The creation as designed has everything in it. The Garden of Eden, which is this whole planet, right? This blue-green jewel floating through space, is the Garden of Eden. And everything is already created for us that we need. Obviously, research, development, but within reason, within the boundaries of natural health, right? So how do you approach that topic in your research, and what is some of the research that you and the foundation are doing?
So what of the big thing for my father, very important to him, was do not harm. And he looked for molecules that would destroy cancer cells without harming healthy cells. And that was absolutely paramount for him. He would not sleep at night if he could think that maybe he could endanger somebody's life or well-being. So he turned to some natural compounds, which he found are absolutely selective. And what is beautiful about those compounds is that they are naturally fluorescent. They carry the light, which I symbolically is beautiful.
Yes.
And you can see, bring the light to cancerous cells, and the light is destroying those cancerous cells.
Amazing.
It's you can follow that under a microscope, so you can really see how it works. But from a symbolic point of view, I find that absolutely amazing. And indeed, it's the light winning on the darkness.
Well, I did this deep study of the Bible around the topic of rulership, because this show is called Created in the Image of God. We're created with a divine essence. We have a sovereignty, ancient, imperishable, and everlasting, that is built into us through the creative act of the Word of God. And he breathed into Adam, and Adam became a living soul, and so on. But then it says he put the greater and lesser light in heaven to rule the day and rule the night. And my simple statement is, when we submit to the light, we retain our sovereignty. Where we deviate and move away from the light, we eventually lose our sovereignty. We become enslaved to some form of darkness, to some deviation from the purity of light. Light, we will never get to the sun, right? The sun is too hot, but we turn towards it. And the trees, they reach their branches out towards it, right? The sun and the moon are symbolized on the wall behind me. People might say, what is that thing? Well, that's the sun and the moon, right? The light and the reflection of the light. Even in the darkness, we have the reflection of light to turn towards, to find our way out of darkness. I just love that you've identified that there's light inherent in the cure for cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually that comes from my father already did this research. And there is now a lot of interest in looking into laser and how laser can help also destroy cancer cells. And this is a new line of research I'm really looking forward to developing and learning more how the fluorescence actually is mechanically destroying cancer cells.
Wonderful. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'd like you to talk a little bit about the products, how they work, maybe some stories along the way, some discoveries in the research. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of Sylvie Beljanski and the war on cancer, the natural war on cancer.
They say the courtroom is where truth comes to light. For one neurosurgeon, it became a test of everything he believed in: his skills, his integrity, his resilience, and his belief in his chosen field. A patient's life forever changed. A Native American husband searching for accountability. A skilled defense attorney trained by the Native American psychologist, and a doctor caught in the middle. fighting to defend not just his actions and his humanity, but medicine in general. Written in real time as the trial proceeded, About Not Losing takes you behind the scenes of a high-stakes malpractice trial, offering a rare look through the eyes of the accused, the attorney fighting by his side, and the psychologist analyzing it all. But this is more than a story about the law. It's a story about the many diverse people involved in a trial. It's also a story of resilience in the face of adversity, of the unlikely friendships that can emerge from conflict, and the strength it takes to move forward when the world seems against you. And even after the trial ended, a recurring dream compelled him to address the lingering questions, turning pain into purpose and closure into a deeper understanding of what truly matters. About Not Losing. A high-stakes trial, life's purpose found. Scan the QR code to get your copy now.
Welcome back to Created in the Image of God. We're here with Sylvie Beljanski, founder of the Beljanski Foundation. Right before the break, we were talking about the products that use agents or ingredients that are fluorescent and actually bringing light directly to the war on cancer. Shed some light on that, if you would, Sylvie, the products and the research that you're working with, and what are you coming up with?
Well, what we are doing, as I said now, is a research on cancer stem cells, so cells which are resistant to chemotherapy, radiotherapy, all conventional treatments, and they are deemed to be responsible for tumor relapse and recurrence. And I believe that maybe worse than you have cancer is cancer has come back. When to hear that, when you are exhausted and you think you have already done everything you could do and you don't know where to turn anymore. And knowing that there are little plant extracts which are natural, non-toxic, and can make a difference, I think is paramount to the well-being of people. But you should not wait until you hear cancer has come back to start to learn about the options. The more you wait, the more difficult it is. I believe that everybody who is diagnosed with cancer on day one should learn about those cancer stem cells that might be there. And we know that 1 out of 5 cancer will eventually come back. So don't let that happen, and try to learn from the beginning what your options are. The website beljanski.org is full of resources. It's free. You can download all this research, share it to with your doctor, and discuss your options. Knowledge is power.
Well, here in the United States, I have some minimal experience with, back in the 70s and 80s here, I think Laetrile was a thing, and this is, the peach seeds, and there were treatments that you could get it, but you had to go to Mexico to get them in the products. How does your work align or differentiate itself from some of those efforts?
So as a lawyer, my first thing when I came here to the States was to notify the FDA of each of those plant extracts as new dietary ingredient. So they have been available legally in the States since 1997 as new dietary ingredients. So they can be sold as dietary supplements. However, on beljanski.org, you will only find ingredients and research. You have to go somewhere else at Maison Beljanski to find the products, and you will not find any claim on the website of Maison Beljanski.
So these are supplements. How do you then, as a lawyer, walk that razor's edge between identifying these as items that people can,
So I speak
versus?
Yeah, I speak about the ingredients and how this and about the research. And if people need to find the products, I tell them where is the website. But of course, I do not make any claim around the products themselves.
important, right? Your mileage may vary as one, right?
Hmm?
There are probably as many individual circumstances as there are people, and I'm sure the results would never be exactly the same.
Well, over the years, we have seen a lot of things. For me, it's all started this obligation of doing something with those products. I did not know, of course, at the beginning up to where I would take that. But at my father's funerals, I had people coming to me and say, without your father, I would not be here. I would not have been able to walk my daughter down the aisle. I would have never have seen my grandchildren grow. And then as I decided to carry on with the research and give presentations about the new research, I had people coming to me with more stories. And last year, I had this person coming, "Hi, do you recognize me?" And I was like, "I'm sorry, can you refresh my memory?" And she was, "I gave you a testimonial 20 years ago about my breast cancer. And I told you that I did the chemotherapy, but I took the products together with the chemotherapy, had no side effects at the time, no burns, no problem. And look here I am 20 years later. I'm a little bit of gray hair, but everything is fine." And really, it make me feel that's really what what I am doing, because I wish that to everybody to be able to survive cancer beautifully like that, and be able to give me another testimonial 20 years later.
So my own I'll spend a moment on my own personal story. Um, going way back, my mother was an alcoholic. She smoked and drank during the pregnancy. I had a lot of health problems as a child. They gave me penicillin, lots of it, because they thought I had asthma, and this was years ago. It was actually secondhand smoke because both my parents smoked, a lot. Um, and I ended up with this immune condition, whether those things were directly related or not. But I had a series of problems, including an iritis, which almost cost me my eye. Um, 3 times I had this very serious iritis. I ended up in an eye clinic in Germany at age 28, where they finally identified, oh, you have morbus Bechterew, known in the United States as ankylosing spondylitis, which is an autoimmune disease. My immune system was actually attacking my eye. They showed me pictures and said, you have an aggressive case. You'll be in a wheelchair by age 40. You'll eventually die young because, your organs will be compressed by this constant, basically the soft tissue in my back and all my joints, hips, and shoulders was being eaten up by my own immune system, right? And that I then went on a quest. I read 100 books. I did all these different treatments, alternative treatments, because they had nothing to offer. They were just going to give me cortisone, right? And I said, will that help? And they said, well, no, but it will ease some of your symptoms. I'm like, but will it get me better? And the answer was really no, it'll actually make you worse, right? So I didn't go that route. All these alternative treatments that I tried, eventually changing even the way that I thought, and was completely healed, in complete remission, right? But what medical science was going to offer me was that thing we talked about earlier, which is, yeah, you will become a patient of ours as you slowly decline from age 28 over the rest of your life, and you will die young. But here, there's something we can give you and sell you along the way. So I guess this opened up me to this idea that there are these alternative treatments that people need to seek out, that people need to take charge of their own health and go find the answers. So Let's go ahead and put that website
Yeah.
right here in the chat.
I grew up seeing a lot of people who were kind of skeptical about the work of my dad because it was with natural compounds. And for a lot of people, natural compounds means, I mean, not serious. It's not going to really make a difference. And that's why I wanted so much to have this scientific foundation doing research with academic institutions to confirm that natural products can be just as potent as synthetic one, but without doing the harm.
So are you familiar with Bruce Lipton, this
Mm-hmm.
biologist? He's got the book Biology of Belief. You mentioned something about RNA earlier,
Yes.
and he did research into the difference between RNA and DNA. What can you share about maybe a little bit more about that?
So, my father looked at the way our immune system is developing itself. And we say everything starts with the gut. And it's absolutely true. I mean, the nutrients are absorbed by the gut, and those nutrients are carried by the blood to the bone marrow. And the bone marrow is creating white blood cells and platelets. Unfortunately, when people are sick, and even worse when they have cancer, and even worse when they have chemotherapy, the lining of their gut is destroyed. So they are not able to absorb enough nutrients. Plus, the cancer treatments are destroying a lot of blood cells. So not enough nutrients. Second good reason for not enough nutrients getting to the bone marrow. So the bone marrow is not nourished enough to create the white blood cells and platelets that are needed to create a decent, healthy, vibrant immune system. And that's why so many people are not able to take chemotherapy because they don't even have enough white blood cells or platelets. My father had the idea to create a shortcut, give to bring to the bone DNA of the bone marrow, the little fragments of RNA, which are exactly what the DNA of the bone marrow needs to synthesize and create a new generation of white blood cells and platelets. So it is food. Forget it has nothing to do with the RNA of the COVID vaccine. It's completely different kind of RNA. This is really food designed to feed the bone marrow and help the bone marrow do its job to create white blood cells and platelets. And it works. We had a clinical trial at Cancer Treatment Centers of America on people who had not enough platelets to continue to carry on with their very nasty chemotherapies. And thanks to those little RNA fragments, they were really, nobody needed transfusions. They were able to go through their treatment without too much damage. And that's really very, very, very unique. There is nothing like that on the market. There is no toxicity. So it can be taken for a long, long time. And the benefits are not just for people undergoing chemotherapy because it helps create a new generation of immune cells. So it helps even for other things. And we currently have another clinical trial going on in Europe, in Bulgaria, on long COVID. Long COVID, there are people who have had COVID and are kind of unable to fully recover. They have a lot of lingering symptoms that may last for years sometimes. And the first 6 patients have been doing very, very well. With those little RNA fragments which are taken orally under the tongue, a little white powder you take under the tongue. And all of them are showing significant improvement of their health and also of their mood. Because when platelets are destroyed, the platelets are the storage for serotonin. Serotonin is a hormone of happiness. So if you destroy the storage, you are not able to get enough serotonin in your body, and you get depressed. So if you take those little fragments of RNA, well, you create more serotonin and you are not depressed.
Fascinating. I do recall that was one of the big first ahas, is that in the digestive tract, right, that is part of your immune system, right? And this is maybe oversimplified, but you have your, what everybody knows as the immune system, the white blood cells. Then you have your skin, which is also part of your immune system, and then the digestive tract, which is your probiotic, chemical factory, if you will, not chemical, but that's where it's all created. And I went through a number of natural cleansing programs, and I had my own plan to enable healthy cell generation. And I had this plan to do this for 14 years, which sounds crazy, but I wanted to, because I read that all your cells are basically replaced except for your brain cells every 7 years. So I figured if after 7 years I could create a better photocopier to make better copies, then those 7 more years later, in any case, it happened all faster than that. The change was faster.
Yeah, of course. You don't need to get new cells all over your body. I mean, the lining of the gut are very fast dividing cells, so you're actually replacing them faster than
within 5 years. I was basically well on the track to permanent wellness, and healthy like I had never been my whole life. Of course, I had to change a lot of things. I had to be willing to change everything about my life in order to get well. The first lesson was, I'm sick. Doesn't help to blame this or blame that or blame the other thing. What am I going to do about this? Right. That was like the first big aha moment for me. And not pitying myself or asking God why, just following through on doing what I needed to do to become well.
Absolutely. And you were speaking, of food, absolutely, but also emotional healing.
Yes,
Can be extremely, extremely important and necessary to get to wellness.
So isn't it fascinating, though, this whole thing about the mRNA vaccines with COVID, or supposed vaccines, right? I found one of the most shocking things was how they moved the goalposts. They created this vaccine, which wasn't a vaccine at all. I've never taken a flu vaccine because they're not vaccines in the first place, right? They trigger an immune response that may or may not be effective in helping you fight off the disease, but it's not a vaccine. It doesn't prevent you from getting it. And then in the end, they were saying, well, you get a less severe case of it, right? But at what cost? Because in 1818, Mary Shelley wrote the book Frankenstein, right? And to me, the mRNA vaccines are like the Frankenstein version of what you're talking about, right? A scientific monster gone crazy that kills its own inventor.
It's a genetic manipulation, and once you have the spike protein in you, you can always try to detox. It is there, and it is. You will never completely get rid of it. You have to learn to cohabit with it.
And this was forced on everybody, basically.
It was forced.
They deny that they forced anybody.
But I mean, people have, whether they get it through vaccination or they got sick by being contaminated by the disease, or both, because the vaccine did not prevent us to get COVID. The result is more or less the same. You get the spike protein in you, and I think at this point, everybody more or less has been exposed.
Well, but that was, so there are two things to me that are the most insidious about that. One is the denial that it was man-made in the first place, right? That it came from the Wuhan laboratory, that it supposedly was not the result of gain of function research, which Anthony Fauci got funding that enabled him to move the outlawed research from the United States, where it was outlawed, to Wuhan, China, where that research could be continued. It was outlawed in the United States, and he obtained the funding. This is well known to anyone who cares to research it. He obtained the funding to continue this gain of function research in Wuhan, China. And lo and behold, this thing came out of Wuhan, China, supposedly from a bat cave, right? But it wasn't Bruce Wayne. It was Bruce Wayne's bat cave, if that was the case, right? It was manufactured. That was the first insidious part. The second one, to me, is the fact that they have so muddied the data that's possible by forcing everyone to get these vaccines. It's impossible now to sort of sort out what actually happened, right? But we do know that this vaccine was not our friend, and all this research is coming out about that. But the data is incredibly muddy now because of the forced vaccination, and who actually got COVID or the vaccine or which one came. It's incredibly muddy.
You know, at the beginning, you were speaking about money. And one thing is not muddy and is very clear is that they got, the Pfizer got the patent for the vaccine just before the pandemic.
Yeah.
So just on time, like they knew exactly what kind of mutation some kind of bat would suddenly.
Right.
Yeah. Of course not. The year before. And the other thing.
And what was the prototype of that? Well, let's see. What was Fauci involved in? AIDS research.
Yeah, absolutely. He was the big master of health research in the 80s, absolutely. And the other thing, which is also interesting, you look at Davos. Davos in 2019, they started the Build Back Better.
Right.
In 19. There was nothing destroyed in 19. There was no need to build back anything. But in Davos, they knew.
Yep. What a tangled web we weave. Well, and on that note, we're going to quickly go to another commercial break. When we come back, we're going to interact with some of the audience comments. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back with more of Sylvie Beljanski and the natural war against cancer.
We have arrived at a critical juncture socially, economically, and environmentally, where only innovative methods and ideas will generate the necessary changes your business requires. The holistic industry has a massive worldwide market with $4.3 trillion in revenue, growing by over 10% annually. Still, nobody can become an expert and thrive in the wellness and sustainable industry without the appropriate experience and wisdom. In The Business of Wellness, an entrepreneur's guide for growth and purpose, Sebastian Hilbert presents a step-by-step process that encourages you to tap into what you truly love and refocus that passion for achieving your wellness business goals and making a lasting, positive impact on the world. Get ready to step into who you are meant to be and cultivate the courage to take your business to the next level by securing your copy of The Business of Wellness at soupllc.com.
Welcome back. We're in the studio with Sylvie Beljanski, founder of the Beljanski Foundation, talking about natural approaches to cancer. So we've had quite a few audience comments. Before we jump in, Sylvie, are there any things you wanted to say to sort of wrap up the prior segments before we look at what some of the comments and questions are?
Well, I would like to say that it is really, really important to have good quality research. And that's what we are doing at the Beljanski Foundation. I would never have changed the course of my life if it was not for something high quality. But I started with a feeling of anger for what had been done to my father, the destruction of his work, of his research, and I have been so blessed to see how this study after study how generous nature is and the beautiful results that we obtain, those beautiful scientific publications, that I'm so proud of what we are doing. And I cannot, they make me happy is to have the opportunity to share this knowledge and tell people to go to the website beljanski.org to read those publications. I see that there are a lot of questions about the products, about what we are doing, is it going to work on breast cancer. If you go on the Beljanski Foundation website, you will see by organ, by prostate, breast, pancreas, and so on, the research what was done, which show what plant extracts, and then you will find, as you go to Maison Beljanski, you will find products that are made with those plant extracts.
Wonderful. We did put that link in the chat as well. Here's a question that came in early on from Shannon Harris. My Healing Strong leaders just attended the Beljanski event in Texas. And you mentioned that as well in the studio before the show. Tell us about that.
Healing Strong is a wonderful organization of people extremely devoted to bring support and knowledge to people with cancer. I am so happy that we have created a relationship with the leaders of this organization. And yes, indeed, they joined us at Texas, Austin, Texas, 2 weeks ago. We hosted a conference, a 3-day conference. There were about 20 very well-known doctors, speakers that shared their knowledge about cancer and well-being, and it was great to see all the people from Healing Strong that were there, and seeing all the people from holistic medicine coming together for better knowledge and better understanding, and be able together to provide the best support to people in need.
Wonderful. A question came in from Shannon then. Are cancer stem cells all the same, or are they different with different kinds of cancer?
So, of course, cancer stem cells are embryonic. It is the same thing that healthy stem cells. Healthy stem cells are very well known because they are used for regenerative medicine. They can be injected in different organs just to help regenerate. It is a little bit the same thing with cancer stem cells, and that's why they can spread to another organ and create a new tumor that will be in another organ. So they are not different so much from each other line of cancer, but what is very important about them is that they are embryonic, and therefore they are able to resist chemotherapy, and they are able to self-renew.
Here's a question or a comment from Gina. Beljanski has been curing cancer and tumors in Texas for some time. The FDA keeps suing him, and a judge had to throw a fit at the FDA. It was awesome. I just looked up, I wasn't familiar with Beljanski, but he also has this statement, first, do no harm, on his website. Are you familiar with this work, and is it similar?
Yes, it's different because it's not working with plants. He is working with some peptides from urine, I believe, which are also definitely some interesting properties. It's a different approach, but indeed everything natural. Everything which is not making pharmaceutical companies rich got in the way, of what was been approved of the FDA. It seems like for now it's maybe going to be a little bit different, and that's why it is so important that people involved in natural medicine seize the moment and try to change the old way things are done right now.
We have a comment here from the author of that book, that we advertised earlier about not losing, a sad story for those of us who devoted our lives to helping people. Well-intentioned words, medicines, and operations. So you and I talked about this a little bit in the studio beforehand, that most people, in terms of sheer numbers that are involved, unlike you as a little girl and me from time to time, not wanting to be around those sick people, there were those people who they really did devote their lives. I know of nurses and doctors, um, who didn't imagine themselves to be cogs in a wheel. There was another documentary we watched because my daughter is being uh, taught by the school to be careful about piling on student debt. So they showed her this. They advised her to watch this documentary before she applies to university, and they showed how this guy was an orthodontist, right? And he racked up $1 million of student debt studying to become an orthodontist. And the way it worked was it just keeps getting worse and worse, because little did he know when he started how expensive it would be to get through his internship. So by that point, you're 400,000, you're $600,000 in debt. And now the light is at the end of the tunnel, and you just take on more debt to get through and complete these final stages. But now you're saddled with $1 million in debt, right? His payments were like $6,000 a month on this debt. And you have no choice now but to become a cog in this bigger wheel.
Mhm.
And at the top, there are people who know enough that their actions can only be termed evil.
Yeah, well, yes, it's very unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. But in France, the studies are for free. Which the government makes school available. I went to law school without paying for it. I mean, the amount was really nominal. And still, you get this at the level of the government, people are making money under the table, there are commissions, and there is a free flow of corruption, and the result is very similar, even though
Yes,
they did not
it's
pay for school.
it's ironic. There's this saying, there's no such thing as a free lunch, right?
Yeah.
It's different, but it's the same, right?
The result is the same.
Right.
People are not in debt, but they nevertheless get corrupted.
It's centralized control. One of the reasons after 10 years in Germany, yes, there were many benefits. I shared with you personally that I was kind of almost anti-American, and I really wanted to go to Europe, where the smart people, the enlightened, the intelligent people were, the people who could speak multiple languages and travel a couple of hours and go to a different country, instead of this monolith of the United States where people didn't know anything but their own language in their own country, and they all thought they were the smartest and the best. And but after 10 years living in the German economy, I began to become aware of the restraints and the constrictions of individual freedom. You had some movement and freedom, and you had certain benefits, but you didn't have control over your life at all, really. You were locked in to the system of systems. Here in the US, you can choose to not rack up $1 million in student debt. You can go a different path. You can get grants. You can work it a different way. You have more options and more choices, which also means you can make bad choices. You can personally make really, really bad choices.
Yes, but you can own those bad choices. You
Yes.
can learn from them. You can change, turn your life around. Absolutely.
And you can educate and help people to not make those same bad choices.
Yeah.
But in Europe, it's more rigid, and you have less freedom. You're more constrained to go a certain way.
I would say people are not even aware of what freedom is, and they are completely astonished when you ask some questions about why are you doing this that way? And they're just saying, it's the way. It is the way to do it. Yeah.
So here's a request. I don't know that we can accommodate it. Please include in this seminar how to get better, how to fight cancer and other chronic diseases.
Oh my God! In this seminar, it would take
Exactly.
it's a long class. It's a several day seminar.
There's no silver bullet. There's no magic pill.
Look, where to start? When I finish my presentation about my little plant extracts, I tell people those little plant extracts are going to help you at the cellular level, whether you are afraid of cancer, you have cancer, or you are in remission of cancer. Those little plant extracts, they will recognize any cancerous cell, precancerous cells, inflamed cells, and they are going to do what they have to do. Now, that will give you time. The big question is, what do you do with this time? And this time, you should use it to have a healthy life, because healthy means also happy on the long term. And this making the sound choices every day. It's little choices every day. What do you choose to eat? What do you choose to drink? How do you choose to exercise, or do you choose to eat Doritos in front of the TV? I mean, all those little things, day after day, are going to make the difference with your life. No, come on.
Sorry.
I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. So
It's
no,
horrible.
but
in moderation, perhaps, but
and that's going, and then also your emotions. How do you process your emotions on your life? Are you subject to your emotions, or do you understand your emotions and process them in a healthy way? Are you stuck in negative relationships, or do you also own your relationships around you with people that you can love and who love you? All those things.
I think too, just getting out in nature, right? Just getting into a nature walk. We do workshops here. We've shared about that on our property for teenagers, where we teach them how to plant seeds and how to grow those plants. And even if you just have an apartment and a little balcony, to at least connect with nature, the natural growth processes that were designed and created to work. And getting back to the religious, God says he sends rain on the unjust and the just alike. This freedom that we're talking about, freedom of choice, is inherent in being created in the image of God. I'll conclude my thoughts and then turn over the mic to you to wrap up the show. But going back again to that Garden of Eden story and the forbidden fruit, right? The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And God says, if you eat of that, you're going to die. And then a curse was pronounced on Adam and Eve, which basically mapped out, hey, your life is going to be difficult and hard because you're taking to yourself the right to choose good and evil. And God recommended not to do that. But if you fast forward into the New Testament, here's the aha moment. The Apostle Paul said, you are like babes. In the Corinthian church, they were arguing and bickering and they had all these problems. And he says, you're like babes. You haven't learned the first thing. You have need that somebody teach you the most basic things again. And then he said this interesting thing. Strong meat. You have need of strong meat. He said, strong meat belongs to those who by reason of use have exercised their senses to discern good and evil. So the Apostle Paul is really saying, yeah, we were always meant to eat that forbidden fruit. God knew we would take to ourselves the choice of discerning good and bad, good and evil. He knew the only path forward was the school of hard knocks, right? What that means is you can inject yourself with your serum, right? Your mRNA toxin. Or you can go back to the source. You can study creation. You can study nature. You can study the food and the plants, as the Beljanski Foundation has been doing, right? And you can discover that God already gave us everything we need. He gave us the latent abilities and talents, the creativity, the intelligence to discern good and evil and to come up with the right answers. But we have to follow a moral path, a pure path. We have to purify our own hearts. We have to first do no harm and all the other principles, follow the light, but you can figure it out. You can get out of the darkness. We can clean up this mess we have made.
Yeah, of course, and it's can be the purpose of each of us, our life, to make to leave the world a better place, to make a difference, to bring love, joy, health to the people who surround us, and what is a better way to give sense to our life and to what was given to us. So the opportunities were given to us. Let's make the most of them.
Wonderful. So, Sylvie, last words about the Beljanski Foundation, your work. I've put the website in the chat again so that people can go there and begin that education process.
Yes, and my book is a very easy book to read. It's a good place to start. It reads like a novel. It's
the title again is, let me put that in the chat. Help me out here. The title of your book again.
Winning the War on Cancer, the Epic Journey Towards a Natural Cure. It has been, I have it here. Winning the War on Cancer, the Epic Journey Towards a Natural Cure. It has been published by Morgan James, and it has my story. So it reads like a novel, but how I started everything in here in the States. But as I take the reader with me, I share everything I learned along the way. So when you have finished the book, and you will finish it because you want to know the end of the story, you will learn a lot about cancer, about research. And at the end, there are the protocols that were given to us by Dr. Markovich, who was a good friend of my father. And he wrote a number of protocols for different kind of cancer. And I put included all that in the book. It's available on paper, on ebook, and also on audiobook.
Wonderful. Well, Sylvie, it was an absolute pleasure and delight hearing your beautiful accent, seeing your radiant face, and seeing the joy and enthusiasm and positive energy that you have for this work you have embarked upon, leaving the world a better place, helping all those people that you were uncomfortable around as a girl. And it's just a delightful story and an inspiring story. I and the audience wishes you well, and I hope that we can have you back to share more about your journey in the near future.
Thank you very much, and I will wish all of you well and a happy continuation on your journey.
Well, we have only one thing left to do, and that's to show the sneak peek for next week's show. So this is me and Sylvie signing off. We'll see you all here next week, 8 p.m. for Created in the Image of God. Until then, may God be with you, and stay healthy and well, or get healthy and well. Hi, everyone. It's Wade Franson back with another sneak peek for the Created in the Image of God show. I have a really unique guest today, one the likes of which we have not yet had on this show, but dealing with a topic near and dear to my heart. Because as some of my audience knows, I personally have experienced divine intervention. Don't like to talk about it much because it's really personal. It's for me. It's not my testimony, or I don't at least want to use it that way. But the question is God's promise of divine healing still valid today? Well, we have a gentleman who comes from a family of doctors, but who today practices the art of divine healing through prayer. Welcome to the studio, Beatty Carmichael.
Well, thank you, Wade. And in a simple answer to your question is yes, it is. I'm seeing almost 90% of everyone who goes through a simple process of petitioning the Lord in the right way get miraculously healed from addictions to chronic pains to mental illnesses and more. So I can definitely say everything I'm seeing in hundreds of people, it's still valid today.
And I know that some in my audience and others who may see the caption here in Sneak Peek have the initial reaction of, here's another snake oil salesman, right? But having talked to you and understood the depth of your understanding of God's holy word, I really wanted to bring you onto the show to dive into the word of God, because there are some apparent contradictions that are often used to cause, well, I shouldn't say they're used to cause doubt, but they cause doubt in people. Is that a factor? Why isn't this widespread if you're having such success with it?
You know, it's interesting. The Lord told me years back through a prophetic message that I was going to teach on healing that had never been taught before. The thing that surprised me is it's clearly in the Bible from beginning to end. It's throughout, but it's something I call hidden in plain sight. And yeah, a lot of people pray for healing, nothing happens, and then they get discouraged and think maybe God still doesn't heal. What I find, though, is even with those people, that if they just follow what God says to do, it's James 5:16 is the root of it, that I see healing literally almost every single time.
Well, I think one more comment. I normally only do 2 questions here, but I want to dive into one more, and that is my understanding of your work is you're dealing mostly with people who are on the lower end of society's blessings, right? Those who may have addictions or homelessness. And I'm reminded of actually what Jesus was doing. He wasn't turning this into a sideshow. He wasn't going and taking it on the road to earn money. He was helping those who were desperately in need. Is that a factor?
It's not really a factor. So my work and passion is working with the poor, the down and out, the addicted, the homeless. But I'm also in a very affluent area. And as I lead all my friends and others through it, I find that it works the same for millionaires as it does for homeless people. I mean, it's like, the way I describe it real simply is it's a law, right? You can look at it empirically. You can go through this process. And every time you go through the process God's puts in his word for how to seek him for healing, he almost always heals. And so whether you believe it or not, whether you're rich or poor, it always seems to work. And that's the thing I've been fascinated with.
Well, I couldn't resist asking that third question because this topic is so important and so fascinating, which is why you will want to be there this coming Tuesday night at 8 p.m. on Created in the Image of God with Beatty Carmichael. See you there.